and I see myself looking about as good as I get. Let's see if it's working. Oops, now I took a sip. And I see myself. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to start out by talking about, well, yesterday we had the 18th annual WDMA golf outing, and we invited a few people, but not many. Because basically Ron, who's on the board of directors, yes, he is alive, and he's still working and doing great copy. Ron and I went out to the local links, and our third partner Max took the picture. There's a beautiful lake just to my right, but for some reason he didn't want to show the lake overview and just showed the trees. But anyway, we had a fantastic time. Ron had 3 legit birdies on the front 9. I almost never have a legit hole. I put an asterisk in there if I don't cheat. I mean, cheat. Well, yeah, I guess that's what you'd call it. If I hit a shot that's not worthy of me, then it gets another try. I give myself another try, and I play from the forward tees. So if you like to play relaxed golf and have a lot of fun, we have a lot of laughs, then make sure that you ask me about next year's WDMA golf outing. Okay, and also, I want to remind you that we're having a webinar tomorrow, and I watched a video last night on how experts are worse guessers than random chance on most topics, because the world is complicated. And so, what I found is there are some people that are good guessers, and I think I have that skill. And so I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk through stories of how I went into companies and solved their problems. And lest you think experts can't solve problems, we're going to talk about how that process can work and how it is repeatable. And I'm going to take the best ones, but I have a lot of them that I could take, so I'm whittling it down right now. But tomorrow at 2 p.m., I'll be sending an email today. I'm getting the email thing better. I didn't send any yesterday. I sent 2 the day before by accident, and I'll send one right before the show for giving you the Zoom links. You have to register to get the links, because I don't know who to send the links to. I'm not going to send it just to everybody. So get over to WDMA.org and let's talk about the process of identifying hidden assets in your company. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA, and well, yesterday I shrank about 14 minutes of content in about 22 minutes of show. So we're gonna cut it down today and make it a lot more succinct. So let's start with this: the implications of teen internet usage. A recent CDC study shows the scary consequences of too much screen time. Okay, in 2014-15, 56% said several times a day, but only 24% said almost constantly. Partly because our batteries didn't last in 2015, right? If you were on it all day and you didn't have a charger handy, or you're at school and you couldn't charge it, you would only be able to spend so much time online. Now, thank heaven, we have phones that'll run all day while scanning your social media. And so now we've got 48%. It's gone down a little because it's moved over here, and this one's doubled, right? So from 24% in 2015 to almost 46%. And it doesn't seem to be that good for people, right? It seems like it's not great for mental health. The number of high school students who have feelings of sadness or hopelessness jumped from 26 to 44%. Just imagine watching the news day and night, what you'd think. And of course, about 90% of the news is not what happened, but what might happen, because that gets more engagement. And then we want to see if it did happen, and they almost never tell you. They just go on to the next thing that might happen. And so you get a very stilted view of the world. But anyway, so the kids are sad and hopeless. And also, the number of kids getting 8 or more hours of sleep at night fell 30% between 2007 and 2019. So there may not be a good answer, but more sleep and less screen time probably is a good place to start. Don't bring those electronic devices into the bedroom either. That's a great answer. Get an old school alarm clock. Don't worry about your phone waking you up. Okay, the number of, and this is another, I think it's the same report actually, but the number of teens using Facebook crashes as YouTube becomes the platform of choice. Are you old enough to remember when Facebook usurped MySpace? Sure, you bet. So you're probably still on Facebook. Unlike 70% of teens who prefer YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat. Now, one interesting thing about YouTube, I watch a lot of YouTube, and as I mentioned in the beginning, I watched a Veritasium video that explained and gave a number of case studies where experts were asked, well, they compared stock picks. They compared Warren Buffett, who legitimately is an expert, to, well, one guy picked 5 funds based on 200 mutual funds. And this was in 2008. The stock market tanked. But then, and Warren Buffett just did the S&P 500. A mutual fund that just kept the same proportion as the S&P 500. And in 2008 and 9, the broad-based mutual funds did better, but after that, Warren caught up and just crushed the other guy. It was a $1 million bet that he could do better than the experts, and they cited a number of studies, and I think they were from Thinking Fast and Slow, which is a very, very fun book that I've read. And so they had a really interesting case where they had a red and green button that lit up. And 80% of the time, the green button would light up, and only 20% of the time would the red light light up. So they had mice play the game and get a reward if they guessed the right one. You had to push the button you thought was going to light up. And then if you got it right, then you got a reward. And so the mice quickly figured out that most of the time it's green. So just guess green all the time. Always green. And the mouse got the reward 80% of the time. Oh, and then they got a mild shock. But they endured the shock knowing that it was mostly green. And so then they let humans play it. And humans have this weird belief that they can guess what's going to happen next. We have a distorted view of time. And so the humans would try red every now and then. And 80% of the time be wrong. Whereas if they've just guessed green, they'd be right. You know, it occurred to me one time that I think one of the standardized tests that had a time limit, I figured there was a 25% chance of getting something right if you just guessed a whole row of number C. I thought C was a little better than 25% in most multiple choice exams. So as I was running out and they said, you know, time is up, put down your pencils, I just went down and marked C's for a couple more answers. Figured, well, it might boost my results a little, and it worked. I think it worked. I got a very high score on the test. Now, some tests penalize you for wrong scores, in which case the shock is a little bit greater. But anyway, so their point was, oh yes, and humans only got the right answer 68% of the time, whereas the mice got the right answer 80% of the time. And their conclusion was that our ability to think we're right gets in the way of actually being right. And I thought that was very, very interesting. So YouTube is one of the only platforms where you can actually learn something, where the people who watch YouTube videos seem to actually benefit from it. So I'm a big YouTube fan, and I watch mostly sailing videos, and I learn a lot. But anyway, so they had 1,300 teens and found that just 32% of them use the Facebook app. Now, I go on Facebook almost every day. The desktop version, you can see your messages. The phone version, you don't. You can't. It's very difficult. You got to change it to the desktop view, and it's almost impossible. They keep telling you need to bring up Messenger, which I don't want to have a Messenger app. So I don't have the Facebook app or the Messenger app, but I still use Facebook almost every day. So this may have screwed up this test. Anyway, so in 2015, 71% of teens used Facebook at that time, okay? But now, teens have been abandoning it in droves. And Mark Ritson pointed out the other day, I think Monday we talked about Mark, that just as it was possible to acquire users by the millions per day, because there was no barrier to entry, and we called that acquisition, there's also no barriers to exit. And that is where Facebook is now. Look at this. Excuse me. So Facebook has just 2% of almost constantly using it. 8%. Look at that. 67% say they don't use it at all. That's staggering. Whereas YouTube, only 5% say they don't use it at all. I mean, if nothing else, if you're fixing home appliances, man, it's unbelievable. In fact, even cars. My son's car was in the shop for about 3 days, and I kept asking him why it was still there. They were just changing the alternator, and they said they had to pull the whole engine. So I went on YouTube and I looked up how to change the alternator on this little car, whatever kind he had, and they showed how the way you do it is you take the right front tire off, take the wheel off, and then you can get right at the alternator. I called them up. I said, "Did you take the front wheel off?" They said, "No." "What do you mean?" I said, "That's how you get at the alternator." Oh, and in another hour or two, they had it done. So, anyway, it's very, very useful. TikTok is coming on fast, but I don't think you'll learn as much because it's curated nonsense mostly. But Instagram, that's owned by Facebook, well, that's doing a little better. But Instagram is getting blown out by TikTok, and YouTube is getting, and Facebook is getting blown up by YouTube. And a lot of people in my groups, my beekeeping groups, post on YouTube. So that's what you get. Okay, so let's see. Now, I think we'll call it a day. I've been putting too much in these shows, and I got a great another article. We'll give you that tomorrow. So have a great day. Get over to WDMA and register. I posted the link on the WDMA group. If you're not in that on LinkedIn, you ought to be. And I sent it to some key friends. So if you didn't get one, well, send me a link. Send me a message, and I'll send you the link. Okay?